Do you want to use up some 6x6 sheets of paper to make cards and not have any scraps left over? Well, then stick around because I'm about to share my new No Scraps sketch set. Hey, it's Beth. Welcome. Today I am sharing my latest No Scraps sketch set. So this is a 6x6 sketch set, and it is my sketch number 9. And it is for like 6x6 paper, 2 sheets, and I give you the cutting guide for how to cut your 2 sheets of pattern paper, and then I give you 3 different card sketches that you'll use to make 4 A2 size cards. So today I am working with this coffee mega pad from Echo Park. It's just a bunch of fun coffee themes. And I have some embellishments that go along with it, as well as some items from my stash that are coffee related. And so we will make our 4 cards together. I've picked out 2 sheets of the pattern paper. One is directional, one is non-directional, and I'm going to use my cutting guide to cut both sheets down. I'm going to start off with the non-directional piece. So if your paper is non-directional, then there's just less you have to worry about on cutting. But I have my big piece cut and then am working on the strips. There is a hang tag like hole at the top of the paper. It is an Echo Park pad, and a lot of them have the hole at the top of the pad. So I am losing a little bit of area because of that, but I'm going to zoom in here and show you how an easy way to cut your square in half diagonally. If you have a cutter like mine, you kind of line it up with the points on the cut bar area and then put the blade down in the middle and kind of go up and then back down. If you have a guillotine, you can line it up the same way, but it's just easier. You don't have to worry about getting your blade in a certain area. So now I'll finish cutting the strips and realize that because of that, the hang tag area at the top of the pad, I had a little bit of extra on those first few strips that I cut from the second piece. So the non-directional paper is cut. So for my second piece, it is directional. So I am going to turn it upside down and then do the 3 1/4 piece first. And then that way it will allow my piece to be going vertically like it's supposed to be. And then I will get the rest of the strips cut as well. And so if you're working with a paper that has a specific orientation on your strips, you are cutting strips kind of going 2 different directions, but you're going to use them in different ways on the cards, so it may not matter in the end. So here again, I've lined my points up and then kind of started in the middle of my square to cut that diagonal. So this time I remember to cut that extra off, and you can see here I was worrying about the direction of the pattern. Luckily I have double-sided paper, so it wouldn't really matter in the end, but it ends up not being an issue anyway. So my strips are cut, and now we can work on assembling. We're going to start with sketch A, which uses that larger piece and then the 2 triangles that we cut. So my template or my guide does not give you anything extra to put on the inside of your cards. So if you want something for the inside that I'm showing you here, you can kind of cut in on your triangle pieces because not the whole thing will show. And so you can kind of cut in, and then it gives you an extra triangle piece that you can put on the inside of your card. And then you'll see that whenever I do one, like this one that I've cut into, and then one full one, and you really can't tell the difference. So that's just, if you want something on the inside of your card, that's one way that you can get some extra pieces. So I'll go ahead and get this assembled. I want to say that the sketch will be linked in the description box below. It is a link to my website, so you don't have to have a membership or anything like that. It's just to the website. You can download it, print it straight from there. And all of my other sketches are on that website as well, so I will include a link for the other sketches as well, if you haven't gotten those yet, the first 8. So that is the base of sketch A, and then you can kind of play with the sentiment and the embellishment. You can, swap them out, do whatever, any shape, any size. I just went with a strip for my sentiment as the sketch called for, and then the coffee cup for my embellishment. And for my sentiment, I decided that I wanted to do a fishtail on both ends of that. And then the coffee cup is actually one that I already had in my stash. It was from, I die cut a bunch of scraps recently, and so I already had that ready to go. So I went through and pulled out all of my coffee themed die cuts and stickers that I had that weren't part of this collection. And then all of my sentiments are pre-stamped. I already had them stamped and ready to go too in my stash. So I decided I wanted a little embellishment there on the front of my coffee cup. So there's a small little circle flower on the sticker sheet, so I will bring that in. And then here I'm going to add that little triangle that I cut on the inside of my card. So if you cut all 4 of your triangle pieces this way, you'll have 4 smaller triangles that you can use on all 4 cards. So I'm going to do the second card for sketch A. Actually makes 2 cards. I'm going to do the second one off camera. We're going to move on to sketch B, which makes 1 card and uses 6 of the strips. So I picked the vertical oriented coffee pattern just to make sure, since those were all going to be going up and down. So now I'm just trying to get my alignment right so that all 6 strips will fit. And then I'm going to bring out, I have a T-square ruler. I actually bought it for scrapbooking, but I've used it quite a bit recently on card making. When I'm trying to line up a bunch of strips like this, it just comes in really handy to be kind of like a guide, so that I can make sure it's, the square end, like the vertical end of the T-square is off to the left of my card, right up against it, and then the ruler part is going across the card, and I know I can just put my strips flush up against that ruler part, and then they'll actually all be lined up. I usually eyeball this, and then it drives me crazy, and I end up moving the strips, continually moving the strips to make sure they're all lined up. So it's like, oh, this is actually much easier. So I just got, it was a pack of 3 off Amazon, so I'll link those down below if you're interested. But like I said, I use it more for scrapbooking than I thought I would for cards, but it's actually come in handy lately. So I'm getting all of my pieces down. I used my ATG adhesive, on the tape adhesive on my first strip, just in case I needed to move it to kind of realign it. But then once I got it in place, I decided I could just go ahead and use my wet glue on all the other strips because it would be quicker, because I don't need to move those around anymore once they're down. So now my last strip is lined up, and you should have a border. You're going to have a border an even border on the left and right, and then a little bit wider border on the top and bottom. And you can actually take this card and turn it vertical if you want, but because I had that pattern that was going up and down, I'm going to leave mine horizontal, but it would work if you flipped it vertically as well. So I have another coffee cup that was already stamped and die cut from scraps in my stash, and I'm just going to take a few of the small word stickers from the sticker sheet and use them up on the front. I think it says Mocha Blend. And then I have another thank you sentiment. And again, my sketches are like just a jumping point. You can make the cards as simple as you want or as elaborate as you want. You can add more embellishments and sentiments than what I show on the sketch. This is just a guide on how to effectively use your paper. Because my sketches are kind of to help you work through your paper efficiently and effectively, use it up, put it all to good use. So finished sketch B, and we're moving on to sketch C. We're going to use the other 4 of those 3/4 inch strips. And here I thought I needed to turn them backwards like that coffee pattern, but I didn't. But I did have to fix, there was one of the holes that I didn't get completely cut off when I was trying to get it to be 3/4. So this one is going to be just shy of 3/4 inches wide. But then I realized, oh, I used the vertical ones, the 3 vertical ones, so the 2 horizontal ones were perfect for this card. But then I decided I did want to flip my 2 side strips, the 2 1/2 inch strips, to the back sides, just so it wasn't repeating the same patterns. I just thought I'd mix it up a little bit. So these 4 strips kind of go in the center, kind of lined up in a grid, and you want to, you don't have to do it this way, but what I try to do is keep my strips within the length of those 2 skinnier strips. So I'm going to pull my T-square ruler in here again, just so I can make sure that everything's lined up crosswise correctly. And again, I'm using my tape just in case I need to move things around. So here I'm bringing in that vertical strip on the right as a guide, just to make sure I'm not going to go past it, so that my horizontal strips are going to be the same distance as the length of my vertical strip. If that makes sense, that's a lot of horizontal vertical thrown in there. But now that my 2 outer strips are down, I'm going to switch to my wet glue, because I don't have to worry about moving things around. I can just kind of slide to find the spacing. So I do have a little bit of wiggle room with the wet glue. And on your tape, you do have some wiggle room until you actually push it down. So if you need to pull things up and shift them, as long as you don't push your paper down, you can still kind of pull it up, and the wet glue or the tape glue, the tape adhesive, will still come up and restick. And now I'm going to add these 2 vertical pieces. These are the 1/2 inch pieces that you cut. And just one on the right, one on the left. And I liked the more solid patterns. I just felt it kind of it grounded it a little more. And again, this card, you could do horizontal like I did, or you could switch it vertically. But again, I was working with the orientation of the paper strips, so I'm going to leave it horizontal. And this time I'm going to pull in a sticker as my kind of sentiment and embellishment. So I was just trying to figure out size-wise and color-wise which one would work best. And I finally decided to go with this one that says "Dream big and get the large cup." Thought that was cute. And I decided to, because it had that floral pattern kind of as the border, it's like a fancy label shape, And since it had that floral border, I wanted to back it on some white cardstock just so it would stand out a little bit more. So I just put it down on some scrap white, and then I'm just going to fussy cut around it. And that'll, I think, help it stand out a little bit more on the busy background, the busy patterns of my horizontal strips. So just a tip again, if you are new to fussy cutting or struggle with it, move the paper, not your scissors. It'll help it flow a little bit better. And don't worry about it being perfect. Most people won't even notice. So now that I've got that fussy cut, I can adhere that down and my final card will be finished. So here are the 4 cards I made today. I did do the second card of Sketch Set A off camera, but made these other ones with you. Again, this was using the No Scraps Sketch Set number 9, and it will be linked in the description box below for you, as well as any of the other products that I use that I can find. Hope you guys got some inspiration, and will check out and give my new sketch set a try. If you do create any cards using any of my sketch sets, really, and post them on social media, please be sure to tag me at Bourbon Creek Crafts. I'm pretty much Bourbon Creek Crafts anywhere that I'm on social media. And then be sure to use the hashtag BCCNoScraps so that I can see the cards you made. Thank you guys so very much for your time today, and hope you all have a very crafty day.